All right. Well, good morning. Well, good afternoon. We crept past 1:30, close to 2 o'clock. Thanks again for joining for another community update. Listen, next week's we're going to do live and take a lot of those questions too. I know we've gone back and forth with live and pre-recorded, but next week will be live. My hair I've had left is kind of going all over the place. I appreciate you being able to join us for this. We try to provide as much update information on things that are going around in and around the city and the community. For you to stay safe. Obviously, we're still dealing with COVID and how we're still dealing with that. With the Summit County has tricked into red, and we remain in constant contact with the Ohio Department of Health and Summit County Public Health, who really, I think, do a wonderful job of posting guidelines of how to keep us all safe. But first, what's been going on for the last 20 some odd days, or close to 20 days? Early voting has started a few weeks ago. I usually vote on Election Day. My youngest is actually eligible to vote in her first presidential election. Wanted to make a plan for her to be able to do that. She kind of ran into some scheduling issues. She's going to vote a little bit later at the polling place. I make a plan for voting is what I had to sit down and do, and said, listen, this is what I'm going to go. I'm going to take this amount of time. And really, the Summit County Board of Elections and I think boards of elections around Ohio do an excellent job of dealing with the number of people, you know, kind of the requirements of what you need, people that need to socially distance and stay safe. I got to the Board of Elections about 20 till 8. I did it earlier in the morning, walked into the door about 8:01 or 8:02 because they take a certain number at a time, moved them through, registered, got my ballot and got back out. I was really out of there by like 8:15 or 8:20 at the most. The line was not bad. Everybody remained socially distanced and we were under a tent. It was actually raining that day pretty good, but it's about a plan for voting. There's probably close to 60 million people across the country that have already voted. That early vote center is open until the Sunday before Election Day. Wear a mask, stay socially distant, know what you're going in there for, but make a plan. The polling locations are still going to be open. Find your polling location. If you need to know, you can call 643-5200. That's a Board of Elections. If it hasn't changed from the last time, most times they won't send you a card. The only time they really send you a card is when it changes. So if you haven't got a card, but if you want to double check, call them. And it's time to go out and vote. All elections are important, especially for us that are on the ballot. It's not. We have actually 5 issues that are on the ballot this year, issues 2 through 7. I'm sorry, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 issues. I apologize. Using my fingers to count. We have posted information about all of them. If you need to know more, obviously we can post a link with a PDF for you to familiarize yourself with all of those. But it's your responsibility to go out and vote and to get out there and do it. Find your polling location, or if you want to vote early, it is open this Sunday even and Saturday. There are some hours to be able to do that. Like I said, the boards of elections are made up of our friends and our neighbors. They are a bipartisan group of both Democrats and Republicans who watch the process to make sure that it is fair and that it is safe and it is accurate. They've been doing it for a very long time. There's a significant number of people that you and I both know that work down there that make sure that it is fair, safe, and accurate. And so I have a tremendous amount of confidence that they are going to do that again. And the results are where the results are. But make a plan for voting, exercise your right and your responsibility to go out and fill in those ovals and check that box of all the important issues that are out there this year. So if you have questions about that, please, you can let us know on social media. The Hey Akron magazine is out digitally, just came out last week. I encourage all of you to check that out. We shared some, I think, some very important community updates. Details about the charter amendments and the city's Akron Racial Equity and Social Justice Task Force. And there's a lot more. We highlight one of the mayor's office employees, Summer Hall. Thank you for all the hard work that you do each and every day. I think make the city even a better place. So, but check out the Hey Akron magazine. Obviously, there's a message from me and some other community updates about Lock 3 and its fall schedule. So check that out. It's just a click away. Halloween is coming up Saturday. If you didn't know, I know we made this announcement a few weeks before, and a lot of you said, hey, listen, we want to hold on to Halloween. We want to be able to do those things. And obviously, none of the mayors across the state of Ohio were. And as we told the governor, we didn't want to be the ones to tell our residents, hey, we can't have Halloween. You had to do it. No. But we wanted to come up with a safe way for people to be able to do that and how we do it. So Halloween is still going on. It is this Saturday, October 31st. And follow all those guidelines that you would normally follow. Maybe try to go out in groups that you know, or just your family. Local health orders. Wash your hands. If somebody doesn't have their lights on, obviously they are not participating this year, which is fine. If you don't want to participate, don't turn your light on. My granddaughter's first Halloween, I'm not sure what costume it'll be. But obviously we're excited to be able to do that, and we'll wear a mask and we'll stay socially distanced from others, and just be careful and be mindful of others that are out there. It doesn't go on all night. Obviously there's a limited amount of time. Sun's going down earlier and earlier each day, until December 30 or December 21st when winter hits and all that starts to change again. But like I said, we're losing daylight. So it does start, it is October 31st, which is this Saturday. One thing that I think that we needed to maintain, even as we started to talk about this in March, I've always been a big fan of leaf pickup. I think that we do an excellent job. Last year, we kind of got hit with a little bit of early snow, but then actually went back out and picked those up after that snow melted. A lot of those leaves, as they wash down the sewers and the inlets, they don't do a very good, it doesn't do a very good job for us with our water reclamation system down in the valley. So if those leaves get washed down there and they have to get, taken out and turned into compost. So the less they'll go down there, the better offer is for us. So we'll start in Ward 5 beginning just on November 2nd, and we'll repost a complete schedule today and every week going forward. And so obviously we'll try to get as many up as we can. I've been working on them for at least a few days. There's certain sections of the city that obviously have more trees and that they get into the neighborhoods. Ward 8 and Ward 2 are particularly heavy, even Wards 4 and 3 with a lot of those trees. So we'll get around, we'll pick up those leaves, but follow the schedule. Don't put them out too early, because if it does rain, the rain can't go anywhere. It can't down the inlet and the leaves block it up. So just be mindful of those as those crews are out there. And that was one of the things that I know we needed to continue to do as a city service. Even as we started talking in March, the idea is out there, should we do a leaf pickup this year? Because obviously it's not inexpensive to do it, but I think it's an important service to be able to do. And I see a lot of people out there, moving their leaves from the one part of the yard, or at least getting them to the close end around those devil strips on the curb. So look at your schedule and see when that's supposed to be put out. Try to put them in the street the night before. Obviously you can't help when the wind blows and it gets out there, but don't move them until the night before. It just makes it makes traffic go easier in case it rains, and it makes it easier for the crews to pick them up too. But they'll come around. Obviously they rake them off the curb, and they got a giant vacuum that come and picks them up. Like I said, I think they do an excellent job of doing that. I wanted to share an update over the weekend. If some of you didn't see that, the state of Ohio and most of us Ohio mayors have been working with the governor fairly closely over the last 7 months. But this last round of CARES Act funding came out, in some specific amounts is going to help a relief program for rental and mortgage and water sewer utility assistance. And there are qualifications to be able to do that. As you know, that we have been doing this for a long time. Ohio is putting more money, and not necessarily into our efforts, even though we set aside a significant amount for people to be able to do that. And we'll certainly apply to be able to have more, because I think this is a key time to help people through some of the most difficult times, whether you haven't been able to work, whether childcare is an issue, but rent and utility assistance and mortgage assistance, I think, is going to be crucial. So there's $50 million towards that. And the application process will open November 2nd. There's also $125 million to establish a small business relief program. And like I said, all these applications are going through the state of Ohio, and those will open on November 2nd. So all the process is through them. We will obviously, all cities across the state of Ohio will be advocating for as many businesses and as many people to help, but that's why they set up specific programs. Businesses can apply. There's going to be specific to restaurants and bars, and higher education, and for nonprofits, and to the arts. So that's the update on that round of CARES Act funding from the state of Ohio. It was somewhere north of about $400 million to be able to do that. And this is not a small state. And so that $400 million has to be spread around the state of Ohio. So there are specific things, the number of employees in your business, your percentage of median household income, all of those things that the state determines that'll make those qualifications. You can find that out when that application process up, and we'll post a link for those also at some particular point, so you do have an opportunity to be able to apply for that. Went through fall leaf schedule. Last week, I think, was fairly significant in that we wrapped up the first round of Main Street is open. And I encourage you to visit the restaurants and the merchants on Main Street and check out some of the socially distanced events that Lock 3 and Downtown Akron Partnership is advocating. If you get down to Main Street, make sure you download the Akronite app to earn blimps and support local businesses. All you have to do is link your card and you automatically have 5 blimps. Make sure that you download the Akronite app. And with the first round or that first phase of Main Street opening, it's right about the federal building, a little bit north of the roundabout, and then through the roundabout and all the way down to Cedar Street. I think it looks phenomenal. Obviously, we always have tried to stay on schedule. Maybe we were a little bit behind on that part of it too, but the State Street Bridge is opening up fairly quickly in the next couple of weeks to be able to provide that access back over to Children's Hospital. So a lot of those infrastructure improvements that we had started, and even on the planning part, went back at least 5 or 6 years, they are wrapping up. And that's if you combine the State Street Bridge and Main Street, that's about a $40 million infrastructure improvement into downtown that was largely taken care of with federal and state funds. Those federal and state funds are all of ours because they are taxpayer funded, but it wasn't a whole lot of local match, even though we did have some to be able to do some of those improvements. So that's a big investment into downtown, into its infrastructure. So as we move through COVID and we can safely do things again in and around Lock 3 and in the baseball stadium, I think we'll have a marquee place across the state of Ohio to be able to showcase some of those events. Interestingly, I've always been a fan of tennis. My brother will always say he never lost to me, which may or may not be the case, but we always played quite a bit. He's also fairly good in ping pong, but I just dedicated 6 new pickleball courts. And if you don't know what pickleball is, imagine taking a wiffle ball, a kind of a racquetball racket on a 4 square court with a net. And it's at Waters Park. There are over 3 million players in the United States. There are senior Olympians that are in the area. I think she was from Canton. And you kind of stand across from each other. It's kind of set up like tennis. It's in a shorter frame with these boxes. And you play with a wiffle ball, which is a hard plastic ball, and a short paddle. It's not a racquetball racket per se because it doesn't have net or that string. It's kind of a hard thing. And it's kind of a back and forth kind of ping pong with a wiffle ball on a shortened tennis court. And it looks like a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to check that out, we just dedicated the first 6 pickleball courts in Akron. It's up at Waters Park, and that's right across from St. Thomas Hospital, Summa St. Thomas. Plenty of parking. There are people that are going to be using those, and we just rededicated the old tennis courts into pickleball courts. But it looks like a lot of fun, to tell you the truth. So I am interested to maybe get out and maybe challenge my brother to a game. I know he's probably not listening, but he'll get this at some particular point, and we'll see if he'll take up the challenge and go from there. So obviously, there's been a few questions, and we'll start with them. And Amanda, if you want to start with the first one.
Sure. There is still so much increased violence happening in this area and amongst our youth. How are you working to reduce violence in this community and keep our kids safe?
Well, it's not a topic that we don't try and find a solution for pretty much on a daily basis. And even going back a few years and doing the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force of coming up with a plan and actually starting that with our midnight basketball leagues and other programming in and around our community centers. And I think it's not underestimated by me, but I think it's underestimated by some is the amount of pressure that COVID does place on socially distanced activities, how we can better engage youth. And obviously, there's a reason why we have an education system across the country. Education is extremely important, but it's also important for kids, and especially during the day. And I think we have realized how important teachers are, our public servants are, and not necessarily myself, but people who serve the public, our grocery clerks, all of those that serve us, it becomes a way that, if we don't have those things, this is what we're missing. We're missing those daily activities. We're missing that fellowship of being able to try and engage youth for them to not go down the wrong path and have them an opportunity, whether through education or economic opportunity or almost anything. And so as we do that, we obviously are working on intervention. We're working on family intervention. We're working on violence intervention to use intermediaries, not just myself and not just the police department and not just all of those things, but how do we do those things and reduce violence, not only amongst kids, but even the use of a gun. And we've seen that spike across the country when it comes to people using a gun to solve their dispute. And sometimes it's retaliation and they want to get back at this person. We're trying to stop that. And that's directly reaching out to those families who are victims of gun violence to try to not have them do that. And I know it seems like, you're trying to crawl up the wrong tree, or you're trying to do something that you'll never be able to do. But these are the things that we're trying to do on a daily basis. So it's engaging a lot with our partners, and those are our business institutions, our hospitals, our educational institutions. It's a community issue that we all need to take a look at. And these are people that we know. These are our friends and neighbors. We all know somebody that has been affected by this. And we don't claim to have all the solutions to be able to fix those problems either way. But I know it's our responsibility to be able to take these head on. And we're going to continue to do it to drive down that level of violence. And that's also giving those people an opportunity in their neighborhoods. And that goes back to the investment in neighborhoods. It goes back to Great Streets. It goes back to the Parks Challenge. It goes back to the Racial and Social Equity Task Force that were actually kicked off its first meeting just last week. All of those things, I think, need to show this community that we do care about what's going on in their lives. How do we do that? And I think it's a two-sided question to say, if these are the things that are happening in your life, what are the things that we can do to make that less so? How do we reduce violence in your lives and those interactions? And that involves the community. And so I know it seems like a very long-winded, wonky answer to a short question, but those are the things that we're trying to do on a daily basis. But I think kids getting back into school, we can safely do that. I know we've done sports, and I talked quite a lot with Superintendent David James about what the plan is and how do we safely get kids back into school? Because where we're seeing COVID spread, we're not seeing COVID spread in schools. We're seeing them spread in community spread with small family gatherings, people who are maybe, and this is part of the messaging too about, washing your hands, wearing a mask, and staying socially distanced. The spread in Summit County and those counties that are going upward, they're coming from parties. They're coming from family gatherings. They're coming from social gatherings as opposed to school and to sports. And not to say that school and sports haven't had a person be infected, but most of that uptick is coming from, I think, people letting their guard down. And I think, not that they're not taking it seriously, but it does put a lot of pressure on people about, hey, are we done with this yet or not? No, we're not done. I mean, we still have a winter to go through in spring. Is there a vaccine coming up quickly? I think so. Is it going to be safe to take? Yes, I think so. But those are all those messages that go back to how we can safely get back to those activities that I think reduce violence in neighborhoods, and they give people more opportunities. Like I said, I think it's a longer answer, but it's much more complicated than just saying hey, let's just stop doing this. What are those other opportunities that we can keep people from doing? So if you have a further idea, if you have further questions, please feel free to let us know on social media. But Amanda, what's the next one?
Okay. The city's debt is about $1 billion or about $5,000 per resident. Is there a plan on how to pay that back?
Yes, there's always a plan of how to pay it back. And when we look at the leverage part of a lot of cities across the country, right now we have about $1.1 billion in debt. And I know that seems like a large number. And one of the things that I've tried to do over the past 5 years is, number one, is increase our reserves, which we have. And number two was try to not take on unnecessary debt or have as minimal amount to be able to get the maximum amount of bang for those projects. When you look at Main Street and some of those other things, we're able to leverage a significant amount of federal dollars. There's always some sort of local match, but to tell you the truth, I want local match to be zero. If I can't make it zero, we try to make it as little as possible. But about $575 million is related to public utilities, which is that EPA mandated consent decree that we have. That was, and what we've been able to do significantly over the last 5 years is extend those payments out over a longer period of time and get a lower interest rate. I've always said that those infrastructure projects, if they're going to last 25, 30, 50, 100 years, which we plan on them doing, there should be 2 and 3 generations that help pay for it. All of the costs should not be just on all of us that are paying now. If we can spread those payments out longer, obviously they become lower and it makes it much more affordable. But there are sewer and water revenues that are dedicated to pay for those projects. So that takes care of the one section. About $230 million is dedicated to the community learning centers, which, as you remember, 15 years ago, that was the joint project between the Akron Public Schools and the city of Akron. And we have a dedicated 0.25% income tax that is dedicated to paying that off. About $128 million is general obligation debt, and that is from those go to fund projects in and around the city, and that is backed by the full faith and credit of the city of Akron. And about $127 million of the debt will be repaid from the city's 2.5% income tax that it currently levies. That is a breakdown in where most of the debt is, and I do take this very seriously about how this generation has this particular carrying. As you know, we raised the income tax just 3 short years ago to be dedicated to infrastructure, police, and fire when it comes to public safety and public service. And I'm kind of loath to take on debt that we don't need. So always looking for a better interest rate, looking for better financing, and not increasing that amount is a goal of mine to be able to do it. But there's also those services that we still continue to need to provide. So as you can see, sometimes it's it takes a pretty significant effort to look for the best interest rate, to look for the best terms, and then to go out to the market to be able to sell these. So I'm not a city finance expert, but I understand it well enough in the economics background to know that we don't want to add to our debt capacity. We don't want to add to our debt total, but we still want to be able to continue to move the city forward. And so making the best, I think, financial decision and the overall plan is to forecast and use the dedicated revenue sources over time, but just be very careful and very mindful of incurring debt. So,
okay.
But good question. I do appreciate it.
And our final question for today is, are you concerned with Summit County going purple? And if it does, will the city shut down again?
I think we have 2 more questions. We'll go to that other one first, but we'll go to this one too. As I talk to mayors and county commissioners and others across the state, we're always concerned. Where we've seen that uptick, obviously, is in those social gatherings that people have kind of let their guard down and say, listen, let's have 10 or 12 people over, and maybe they don't wear a mask, or maybe they don't socially distance, or maybe they're not guarding themselves or the ones that they may have in contact in how that will spread. Now, given that, the goal in the very beginning, and I said this in March, is that we don't want our hospitals overrun by COVID patients. They need to be able to have the capacity to be able to treat everybody that goes there. So you being mindful of wearing a mask, washing your hands, and staying socially distanced, those 3 things work for a reason. And I'm not saying that these are the easiest things to do. This is definitely a tough time to be able to deal with this. But I've always said that I think the best asset of this city is its people. We are resilient. Yes, it does put pressure on people that, listen, they want to go to the park. Yes, you can do some things. They want to go golfing, of which you've been able to do a lot this year. But there's a lot of those big gatherings, and I know funerals have been hard, and I know weddings have been difficult. You just have to be very, very mindful of your circumstances and what other people are doing in and around you. And really, it's up to all of us to keep each other safe. And that's really the responsibility. And I know some people say that, you don't have a right to tell me that I don't have to do those things. Listen, I get the argument, but we also have a responsibility to not get other people sick. And if you read the Beacon the other day, we saw an uptick in our public safety forces of exposure and getting this. I'm trying to keep these guys and girls safe first, because they're the ones that are going into our house and responding to the person that had a heart attack or a traffic accident victim or anything else. Those are the ones that are going in first, hopefully with the right gear on too, but they're going in an emergency situation. We're trying to protect those. We're trying to protect nurses, doctors, everybody that provides those public services. And I think that's the responsibility that we have to each other. Like I said, I know it's not been easy. In fact, it's been difficult for a lot of people. We transition out of the office quite a bit to keep people safe. And so are we concerned about it? I don't like where the numbers are going. And I don't think anybody does when they're going up. Nobody's going to say, well, that's good for us. No, they don't. We want to see them reverse. But people also have to be mindful of wearing that mask and staying socially distant and washing your hands and not being in and around X number of people for a certain amount of time, because those things do work to stop that spread. And those social gatherings are spreading those more than school, more than sports, and more than in the business environment. That the data has shown that. And so we need to be mindful as we're thinking about, hey, I want to go to this party. Even colleges have really got a handle on the spread of that. Because initially when kids went back, the hardest thing this summer was keeping teenage kids away from each other to not, believe me, it was difficult. But, those are the things that, where that spread was more in that social interaction as opposed to the work environment or the school environment. So we don't want to shut down again. And we're working with the governor's office and ODH and Summit County Public Health to be able to have a plan for that. And so we'll continue to talk about that and let the community know, but also know that that message is out there that we need to stop that spread, and let's all take responsibility to not spread it to the other person. And I think taking a responsibility to the community. And I think that's our number one, that's a big opportunity for us to be able to step up. So, but good question. And they were all good this afternoon. I appreciate it, but I think we have one more.
Okay. Final question. How does the city intend on having Kenmore Construction fix the brand new entrance ramp to the parking deck on State Street?
Well, first of all, the bridge isn't even done yet, but the goal was we wanted to open up traffic first to get traffic moving. Obviously, with a project that size, there are some things that we'll have to go through and say, well, listen, you need to do that, or you need to do that to be able to get that done. That entrance isn't even up yet, or even open yet. To do that, we have new parking equipment that is going in there. So yeah, it's not that it's a bad question, but we're not done yet. And let's judge the meal by after we eat the meal as opposed to, partway through. But we'll get that done. We'll make the entrances as smooth as possible with newer equipment and make sure that that is a safe way to travel and that our infrastructure investment is definitely worth it. So thank you again. I appreciate it. We'll be back live next week, maybe a little bit earlier, but stay safe. Don't forget, wear a mask when you're out in public, wash your hands, and stay 6 feet. And go vote, Akron. Take care.